in the first segment, you um, basically outlined for us the size of Tim Poole's audience and the impact that he has on people. We're talking about a YouTube channel that regularly gets at least 500,000 views on their main videos, up to 100 million views a month. These are extraordinary numbers, reaching many people. The vast majority of whom are between the ages of 18 and 34. And he is, I think, what you could describe as sort of a gateway to what some people call the alt-right. Certainly, I've seen shows where he's had leaders of the Proud Boys on there and basically saying, reasonable guy, and presenting him that way and not pushing back. I mean, I'm certainly open to the idea of having people I find problematic or worse on a show. But if I have them on, I'm going to outline for the audience why they are problematic and why there's controversy in their positions. I'm going to attempt to expose them. And he does not do that.
No, in fact, he goes a step further. What Tim does, and this was something that was said by Tim in a recorded conversation, which a source sent to me. And in this recorded conversation, Tim said of the Proud Boys, it sounds like they just show up to places where that they can show that they can start fights and then afterwards play the victim. Now, that is a very accurate description of what the Proud Boys do from Tim Poole that he said privately. Less than a month after that, he had Enrique Tarrio, then the chairman of the Proud Boys, on his show. That question was not posed to Enrique Tarrio. What he did was, is he read from, and I'm fairly sure it was the Wikipedia definition of fascism, and asked Tarrio, which one of these do you believe? So that Tarrio could say, no, I don't think that the needs of the nation should be put before the individual. Because, as we all know, the far right never lies about what their actual beliefs are. They're known for being truth tellers, is sort of their whole vibe. The other thing that he did is, in that same recorded conversation, the Proud Boys had just been in a series of fights with counter-protesters in Oregon. And one Proud Boy was caught on tape beating a counter-protester with a bat. Tim actually, to his credit, initially tweeted something critical of the Proud Boys. That, this is not cool. I think what he said was, before he deleted it, was that you guys are acting like Antifa, which is, that's not how I would phrase it, but it's closer to a criticism of their behavior. He got a message Tim said in this conversation, from Tarrio, telling him to delete the tweet because he was going to get his guys hurt. So Tim did that, and then he reposted the message saying, it seems like these guys are not Proud Boys. The guy in the video is wearing a Proud Boys t-shirt. So what Tim is doing is, not only is he whitewashing their opinions on there, he is willing to go to his then 600,000 Twitter followers and do damage control on their behalf.
We should say super chats are just simply where people actually basically just pay you during the course of your broadcast, and you read their comment maybe on air or something like that. So, okay, so how did, now I know that Tim started by being a videographer at Occupy. I interviewed him at that point. He was right on the cutting edge of that technology, and I think he was one of the first. Now, we should say he was just a videographer. He was at that very beginning, basically following a correspondent who ultimately Tim and this correspondent had a falling out. My understanding is that for your piece, you could not reach this guy. Right. But there was a falling out, and I remember when that happened. And so how did he go from that to having this massive compound?
Well, it's a bit of a long story. Briefly, as best I can put it, what happened was that Tim got very famous from live streaming at Occupy. He was the one on camera. He wasn't just capturing the videos. He was included in the shot. And so he was narrating and providing, I think as the New Yorker put it, his own brand of breathless commentary. And that made him kind of he was a bit of a, he got some fame from that. There was, there were journalism conferences he would go to, and people were saying, is this direct sort of one-to-one contact between someone with a camera and the audience? Is that the future of journalism?
And we should be clear. I know that at Fusion, having talked to people in the past, he was making an extraordinary amount of money, particularly in the
context. According to the CEO told me that it was between $180,000 and $220,000 a year was his contract. Tim has stated a higher figure.
Yes, I've heard higher myself, but nevertheless, either way, that's quite a bit of money for a guy who's not necessarily producing a lot of stuff. He leaves Fusion, and then what happens?
Well, he starts doing a lot of the same thing that he was doing before. He's going to protests, he's going to political activities, and he's not really getting a lot of traction now that he doesn't have this platform on either Vice or Fusion itself. The thing that changed everything for Tim was his decision to go to Sweden, which is, that's a normal origin story. Life often changes when you go to Sweden. But Tim, this was after Donald Trump had said offhand, like, I heard last night about the riots in Sweden caused by I'm paraphrasing Trump and doing it badly, but he made an offhand reference to this influx of crime because of migrants in Sweden. So Tim decides he's going to go and report it out himself. And he gets $2,000 from InfoWars' Paul Joseph Watson to help with the expenses. He raises $20,000 on a GoFundMe, and he goes to Sweden. And he has a lot of the same problems that he had at Vice and Fusion, which is that he's not prepared to interview these people to really answer the question. He keeps encountering people on the far right and failing to identify them as such. He interviewed the editor of this guy named Chang Frick, who was a former party member and elected official with the far right Sweden Democrats, which is a party that was literally founded by actual World War II Nazis. Tim just calls him a journalist who said some controversial things and then never says what those controversial things are. He does the same thing with three guys who he just happens to meet in a bowling alley. And these guys are very worried about immigration. And he puts them on his videos and he talks to them. It turns out they're members of this, again, far-right anti-immigrant party called Volksringen, and I'm definitely mispronouncing it, Die Fria, whose leader believes that the Jews are responsible for both the Holocaust and 9/11. So we are talking far, far, far right. And if someone wanted to say these people are white nationalists, I don't think you would get a lot of disagreement. But right. Tim just doesn't recognize them. He also he keeps hunting around waiting for these sort of massive outbreaks of immigrant violence, and it doesn't seem to ever happen. There is one incident towards the end where the cops tell him to leave because he's filming people who don't want to be filmed. And Tim invents this story where the cops say that 50 people could show up with rocks to pelt him if he doesn't leave. The police later denied that Tim was in any danger, but this story gets picked up by everybody on the conservative media. It gets picked up by Breitbart. It gets picked up by the Daily Wire. It gets picked up by InfoWars. It gets picked up by Stormfront and the Daily Stormer. And this video becomes, and still is, the most watched thing Tim has ever put out on YouTube. And it has about, I think, 2.8 million views of him wandering around in a shopping mall in the town, in like Rinkeby, which is a suburb of Stockholm, and then leaving quickly because he says that a cop said that a bunch of people were going to come and throw stones at him. But what Tim learned from this is that you don't actually need to go to these places to report. If you feed these right-wing narratives, and whether he consciously learned this or not, I have no idea. But suddenly he was getting the same kind of attention that he got back at Occupy for the first time. And you can watch then over the next 4 years as he both increases the amount of content he makes, he stops reporting, he pretty much just comments from the comfort and safety of his own home, but repeating these far-right narratives. And when we talk about radicalization, this is what I mean. Repeating these far-right ideas or right-wing ideas, or validating these right-wing grievances that will be, in fact, very emotionally resonant for a certain age group of man, 18 to 35-year-old men, results in more and more views. It results in more and more people telling him how great he is. It results in more and more money. And honestly, in fairness to Tim or anyone, if someone started paying me that much money to say things like that, I think I would lose track of whether I believed it or not, because there would be so much external validation that said, yes, this is right. It would take an incredible amount of willpower not to be influenced at least a little bit.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. Catch the exclusive version of this show on The Choice from MSNBC on the Peacock app at 4 p.m. daily, at least Monday through Friday. That's Eastern, 4 p.m. Eastern.